Welcome to another episode of Elementality, everybody. We pulled Carl out of the mountains. He hiked down after a 42-mile barefoot run.
Stop
No,
building up expectations.
That didn't happen?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, lately Carl has been up atop of the mountains. I've been really admiring his running and trying to get myself motivated to do the same thing in my Olakai sandals. But you're killing it, bro. I'm really proud of you.
Enjoying it. It's been great.
It's been fun.
Yep.
Check him out on Twitter if you don't see him at Behavior Gab.
There you
go.
go.
Is motivating to me.
Yeah.
But anyway, we brought Carl down out of the mountains to get him in studio here. If you want to see him in the flesh, you can check out the YouTube channel. We've got 2 followers on there right now. We're trying our goal at the end of this episode to get up to 5. So go to the Elements YouTube channel, check it out.
I'll call my mom.
Yeah. Mom, Dad, we're here looking for a follower. Hit that little bell. It's like a golden bell, and subscribe. And then you can get all of our updates and check out our wardrobe. I am in sweats, so you're going to be seeing those. Excited for today's episode. Carl and I I think it's probably a couple months ago when me and you talked about this concept for the first time, and you said kind of a light bulb went off. And that light bulb moment was, oh my gosh, like maybe everything we're doing as an industry was revolving around the top 1% of people, to throw a familiar kind of metaphor out there.
Yeah.
Like, did we really build this whole industry just around the wealthiest people?
Yeah.
And what kind of introspection, does that create for us? The problem that we kind of talked about was just this 1% versus the 99.
Yeah.
Wow, we have 300, got 120 plus million households in the country. How many of them are we even touching?
Yeah.
How would you describe that light bulb moment for you?
Yeah. No, and
it's not like you didn't know that, but
no, it's just interesting to me. What was important to me to understand was that it wasn't because we've been talking about this for decades. How do we serve more people? And it wasn't a lack of desire.
Yeah.
Right. Like
this super altruistic industry.
Yeah, for sure. So you get into this, you've got this service mentality. I really want to help people. And it's just been a challenge to figure out, well, then why aren't we? And obviously we all have this whole like profitability revenue discussion around what's the right way to charge and all that. But what was interesting to me was to understand that the tools that we use, right? Like this broad base of the tools, all the way from the business model, the pricing, and the actual tools we use aren't broken. They're doing exactly what they were designed for. They were specifically designed to serve. And I want to be clear, like, it's really a challenge anytime you use a number.
Yeah.
Right? So this 1%, 99%, please, we don't need to debate the number. This is just to get us in the right, it's certainly in the ballpark. That's all that really matters here. And it's become so familiar that it's easy to use. So the business model, the way we charge, everything was designed around serving 1% of the population.
Yeah.
And then we've made this effort to try to make other people fit into it. Mm-hmm. Right. And to me, that was the thing to understand is like those tools were specifically not designed to serve that group. Right.
Yeah, and what's interesting is the word serve, right, is, I think, worth highlighting here, because there is a customer type that is buying a service. And there's a customer type that is not really in a financial position to buy a service. Mm-hmm. I think that's been one of the big aha moments for me, is watching the financial services industry sort of exist, because at some point there's someone with enough wealth, enough liquidity, a high enough income where they're like, I don't really want to use any of my mental bandwidth to think about this stuff. Anything money, you just deal with it. Mm-hmm. And that's why you see these family offices evolving, really rapidly. And like taxes, I don't want to think about it. And estate planning, and I want all under one roof.
Well, let's just real quickly, I want to just pick up on something in that term, because like we've all modeled we hear like mini family office.
Yeah.
like a small family office.
I'm like a small family
Yeah,
office.
we've all modeled that service and some version of that service. I'm a wealth manager.
Yes.
Right? It all points to this idea that once you get to the spot where, it's so complex, I need somebody to take it over.
Yes.
Right?
But dude, that spot, I mean, if I'm honest about it, I'm not even at that spot. And I'm a really...
Look, this is the real secret little truth
It's
of
like,
this is
I've
like
got
most people
I've got
don't
a high
need
net
it.
worth. I've got, I mean, if you looked at my finances, you'd be like, okay, this person's quite complex relative to the average person.
Yeah.
But I'm still like at the space where, and many of my customers, we're talking people with, almost, I would say, once people have hundreds of millions of dollars in net worth, I think they start really understanding I'm in a different place.
Yeah.
But people with tens of millions of dollars that I've interacted with regularly, they think they are like the average Joe. Like they're still not at a place where they're thinking, I need to buy a service, truly be served. Like I don't want to touch anything. That's a very interesting kind of place to explore as an industry, is like, we really did start in this place where someone wanted a service to purchase which relieved them of any involvement, any management, any stress, any pain around this management of their money.
Yeah.
And then we just said, we didn't consciously say, let's bring this down market. I just think we don't know what else to do. We don't have anything else to do, so we keep trying to say, how can the same things that I've been doing for this wealthier person just work for all the other people?
Well, everything's oriented around not just the tools, but your mindset is oriented around you getting there as fast as you can. Like how can I increase my minimum?
Yes.
How can I raise my thing? I want to deal with increasing the complex. Like we've become seekers of complexity.
Yes.
And we want to be, and I remember this feeling very specifically. I remember thinking, I've got to move. In fact, I remember having a conversation with a friend of mine who had just sold his business for a crazy, like definitely airplane money amount of money, right? And I told him, like, I'd like to serve more families just like you. And he's like, are you sure? Like, do you, this is back during the BlackBerry days. He's like, I've got 8 people volunteering to sleep with their BlackBerry so I can call them any time of night. Are you sure you want to serve? And I was like, no. He said, why do you think that? And I said, well, because everybody in the industry tells me I want to serve more families just like you. So we're all oriented towards this spot. And it also turns out that we're trying to convince people that don't have a lot of complexity in their lives. We're trying to introduce complexity.
We're like, you need this, like estate
so
planning
we can solve.
for...
Yes.
It sounds like when we say estate planning, it's like, well, I need it. I guess I need it.
Yes. It's very fast. It's like we've dug a hole called mini family office, and I could use wealth management, private client services. We've dug a hole called that. We're throwing normal people in it, and we're looking down and saying, sorry, I'm the only one with a rope. Like, this is the only rope out. And it's the only rope we have.
Let's talk about why that happens. I mean, look at, especially for new advisors, like the failure rate in the industry is super high, right? Yeah. And one of the reasons it's super high is because it's very expensive to acquire a customer.
Yeah.
That is this complex.
Which we're going to get into a bunch,
touch
right?
That.
Yeah.
But like, it's very expensive to acquire a customer, and it's very expensive to serve a customer. And what that means is that you don't have a lot of at-bats during a calendar year to meet these people, or you have to spend a lot of money to get these people. And they're not in your network of family and friends. Like your 100 closest people to you, there's like 5 of them that might be this person.
Right.
But the bulk of the 95 people, they all wake up with financial pain in the morning, but we don't have anything for them. Yeah. And so we end up fighting for years. Like 5 years is the break-even point. I mean, look at like any other profession. Like you're not breaking even at year 5. You're breaking even right out of the gate because there's a salary waiting for you when you get out of law school.
Yeah.
Or a salary waiting for you to get out of CPA school.
Yeah,
so why is there a problem in the industry? Because we literally don't have a service for 100 million people, 100 million households. We don't have anything for them. Right. So all of these new advisors are fighting, waiting, just waiting for this one shot in the dark to get that one client that finally helps them break even, and they just fail in droves. Yeah. In the meantime, there's all this blue ocean of people that have financial pain every day when they wake up, but we just don't have a way
We haven't
figured out a way
to know how to do that. That's so
until someone like Carl came around and he's like, I'm going to create that. Okay?
Not me, but here,
we're close.
I think what's fun is that we can break. So this really serves as an introduction to an outline of this overall sense of this problem for the next couple of episodes. We're not exactly sure how many. We're going to break down this word we're using, problem, by the way. I think we should real quickly just make this clear. I mean that in like the textbook sense of like a math problem. Like puzzle would be a good word too. Just something to be solved. It's not negative. It's not bad. There's no shame around it. It's just like, look, we got to solve this problem. So we're going to take the next couple of episodes to break down some of the problems really specifically and then talk about potential solutions for those problems. And one of the reasons you just touched on that this is so important to me is I literally last week had a conversation with an advisor that I have met. We've become friends on Twitter. And he was talking about how he asked a question like, hey, at what point do you call it quits?
Exactly.
And I was I know it was a painful because I was actually surprised because I know this person's work and have been following them on Twitter and have been impressed. Like,
probably
wow,
an amazing person.
I was like, this person must be doing really well.
Yeah.
And then to hear like, hey, at what point do you have a responsibility to your family that this isn't going to work? And it reminded me of like conversations I had with people trying to make the PGA Tour. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, hey, at what point do I call it quits?
Yep.
And I was like, oh, we can't lose a person like, and I'll not mention his name here, but we can't lose a person like, I'm going to just call him Jim. We can't lose Jim.
Yeah.
And so I got on the phone with Jim. I just sent a tweet saying, hey, call me. My number's in your DM. And he called and we talked for a little bit. And it's such an interesting dilemma, right? Here you've got salt of the earth, amazing, honest person who is a technical rock star, knows how to do the planning piece, and is really struggling because doesn't have the business model, the tools, the mindset, has always been about this thing. And he can't get to this thing that we've all held out there as the ideal. And then you've got other people in the industry that have wait lists because they've been around so long. Mm-hmm. And so we've really done a disservice in terms of trying to figure out that model. And we know that there are people out there thinking hard about this stuff.
Let's just make it crystal clear, what we're trying to do at Elements. I mean, we know that there hasn't been a way to get advisors to succeed fast. We know there hasn't been a way to serve the 99. We know there hasn't been a way to really crack the code of why is our industry have such a long break-even period for all of these professionals, and all these other industries seem to be getting off the ground faster. And the truth is, we just haven't had the right service for the majority of the population. Mm-hmm. And we've had the right service for a small segment of the population. And I would say that, that has been working really well for a long time. We got great tools for that market. And it's like
one important thing here is we're not saying that's going to end.
No.
Right? Like that, like there's no big like, oh no, you need to change if you're serving that end of the market, which is what most people, that was the light bulb to me. It was like, look, there's nothing broken about that model. Yeah. Except trying to make it fit this huge population of people that we're not currently serving.
Yeah, and it's I just think about all the businesses think about every business out there, think about every industry, if that's helpful. Think about hotels. How many different flavors of service are available for you to get a room, right? How many car wash options are there? How many restaurant levels of service are there? Right now, in our industry, we haven't innovated around what an amazing service level might be for someone who doesn't need as much time.
Yeah.
Or as much.
And not just service, but tools and business model.
Yeah.
Service, tools, and business model.
What would that support look like? What would that resourcing look like? I don't know what to call it because it may not be a service. Like we may call it something different, right? It might be a disservice to call it a service because it implies something that we're not actually able to do. Like we can't commit to serving someone.
And that it implies something that the people that we're trying to serve don't even need.
Yes.
Right. That's the other piece that's really important. We need to be intellectually
honest about that. Like, are we cramming down a cost burden onto?
Yeah.
I mean, how many clients do you currently have in a model where you're like, and kind of this probably is a little bit overly complex, but they were dying to get access to me.
Yeah.
They were dying to get access to me.
Yeah.
So they signed up. That was my
favorite group of clients that were just like, well, what if we just built a simple business model with simple tools that serve them better than anywhere else they would get.
Yeah.
Right? Like the tax thing's always it. Like, does somebody need tax planning when they're just going to take the standard deduction?
Mm-hmm.
You're like, how? And I mean, I don't want to oversimplify. Please don't send me any emails. But I'm simply saying, like, when we start thinking about how we've taken the model, the tool, the business model, the service model, and the tools built for this, and tried to jam it down here.
Yeah.
And I think it's going to be fun to explore that in the next couple episodes.
Yeah, and please bear with us as we are figuring this out real time. Carl and I decided to bring you all into this journey live.
A little messy.
And it's a little messy. We're figuring out our words. We're trying to figure out what we call things. We don't know if it's the 1% versus the 99, or if it's mass affluent versus ultra high net worth versus high net worth. Like we're figuring this out and trying to figure out that with you, and we hope you'll participate with us in the journey.
Yeah. Cheers.
Cheers. Carry on.